America is today the most powerful country in the world. By joining both world wars at later stages, it managed to influence the outcomes in its favor. Especially after World War I, the United States emerged victorious from the Cold War it entered with the Soviet Union, becoming the single and undisputed global power. It would be incomplete to evaluate this power only in military or economic terms. At the same time, the spread and acceptance of American culture across the world represent one of the greatest examples of cultural hegemony in history. Even empires like Rome and Britain, considered among the most influential in human history, never reached the level of prestige and dominance that the United States holds today. So when did this state emerge, and how did it achieve independence? To answer these questions, we need to go back to the founding period of the United States, which has a history of only about 250 years. During the 15th century, Europe entered an era of exploration seeking new lands. The British Empire could not remain indifferent to this trend. King James I, who ascended the throne in 1603, ended the war with his greatest rival, the Spanish Empire, through the Treaty of London. Rather than attacking enemies to seize land, James aimed to establish overseas territories of his own. After several attempts, in 1607 the first permanent English settlement in America, Jamestown, was founded. Named after the king, this small settlement gradually grew and developed. It became part of what Europeans called the New World. This New World began to attract migrants from across Europe, becoming increasingly prosperous. However, it was less a land of opportunity and more a destination for those who couldn't find what they sought in Europe. People seeking a better future, adventure, or even former prisoners. With successive waves of migration, Jamestown eventually became part of a structure consisting of 13 colonies. Far removed from the conflicts and wars of Europe and Asia, these colonies developed rapidly. Thanks to the democratic systems they established among themselves, they experienced stable growth and eventually began to raise their voices against the British Empire. In 1754, the Albany Congress was convened, followed by the Continental Congress in 1774. The goal of these assemblies was to unite against Britain under the slogan "A pluribus unum," meaning out of many, one. In essence, it expressed the idea that strength lies in unity. The ultimate goal of this unity was full independence, but for that, a casus belli, a reason for war, was needed. Britain, already heavily taxing the colonies, sought to increase or impose new taxes after its costly victory in the 7 Years' War against France, 1756 to 1763. To ease its financial burden and assert control, Britain enacted the Townshend Acts in 1767. These laws required that the salaries of colonial governors and judges be paid not by the British Treasury, but by taxes collected from the colonists themselves. This sparked outrage in America. In response, colonists attacked British tea ships in Boston Harbor and dumped the tea into the sea, an event known as the Boston Tea Party. This act effectively ignited the first spark of the American War of Independence. In 1775, George Washington, one of the most iconic figures in American history, was appointed commander of the Continental Army. Although he led around 35,000 troops in attacks against British forces, he initially struggled due to a lack of military experience. After a series of inconclusive skirmishes, the colonies sought help from European powers. While assistance did not come immediately, the colonies demonstrated their determination by issuing the Declaration of Independence on July 4, 1776, a date now celebrated as the official Independence Day of the United States. Despite ongoing conflict, Britain continued to propose peace, but these offers were rejected. British General Howe launched an attack on Long Island, defeating Washington's forces on August 27th. After retreating north, Manhattan fell under British control. Though this was a major loss, the colonies remained determined. Later that year, General Cornwallis attacked Washington's position and forced him across the Delaware River. However, in a bold move on Christmas night, Washington crossed the river and launched a surprise attack on Trenton, defeating the British. He followed this with another victory at Princeton, revitalizing the American cause and proving that Britain was not invincible. Despite these successes, the British continued their campaign. Washington suffered defeats, including the loss of Philadelphia. Realizing the need for better trained troops, he invited Prussian General von Steuben to train the Continental Army. Von Steuben's reforms greatly improved discipline and effectiveness, playing a crucial role in future victories. Meanwhile, France officially joined the war in support of the colonies in 1778, followed by Spain in 1779 and the Netherlands in 1780. With European support, American forces began gaining momentum. The decisive moment came at the Siege of Yorktown in 1781. Trapped and without reinforcements, Cornwallis surrendered with 7,000 troops, marking the end of major fighting on land. After the war, intense diplomatic negotiations took place. Finally, on September 3, 1783, the Treaty of Paris was signed recognizing the independence of the United States. British forces withdrew, and George Washington entered New York in triumph. The American War of Independence had far-reaching global consequences. France and Spain faced severe economic crises due to their support for the war. In France, this contributed to the outbreak of the French Revolution in 1789. Spain, weakened economically, began losing its colonies in Latin America. History often unfolds through cause and effect relationships. The American Revolution can be seen as a consequence of the 7 Years' War, as Britain's attempt to offset its financial losses through taxation led to colonial rebellion. Key figures in the American Revolution included the Founding Fathers, John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Alexander Hamilton, Thomas Jefferson, John Jay, James Madison, and George Washington, the first president. They played vital roles in drafting the Declaration of Independence, leading the war, negotiating peace, and shaping the Constitution in 1788. Over time, the United States would go through a civil war, expand westward, and gradually become the global power it is today. This concludes our overview of the American War of Independence.